from what I've learned, a pretty mixed skill set. When he's not creating animated series for national television, when he's not training stuntmen in his spare time, Matt Toner is building companies. He's built about 6 of them. Now he's on his latest venture, which is Biba Ventures, Inc. Matt, come kick us off. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, William. As you can tell from my panther-like physique, the stuntman days are well behind me. But what a great event. Like, I was talking beforehand, I was saying, how did I not know about this event? This is great. Like, I'm not from Vancouver, and Vancouver used to have kind of a networking deficit, I think. But this is fantastic. So before I get going, let me just ask you all a question. I think I've got a good sense of the answer. How many people here in the audience are, besides the dude from Amazon, how many people are starting their own companies or started their own company? How many of you have like a side hustle off your desk, like something that is kind of interesting, you're hoping to kind of kick it into the next gear and make it into something big? Yeah, so pretty good numbers, pretty wild. So I was thinking, I didn't want to get up here and really talk a whole lot about my company and what I do and kind of, shill for my stuff. I'll give you a little bit of context, but I really wanted to talk to you about what I've kind of learned as I kind of approach the back nine of my career. And one of the things that's interesting is that I have 5 minutes tonight, right, William? Like 6? Okay, we're going to target 5. So 5 got me to thinking a bit about numbers and got me to think about a few different things. So I want to talk to you just super quick about my company. So this is my latest venture. It's not my first startup. It's probably my whatever number startup. My first one back in the day crashed and burned. My second one was even more painful, blah, blah, blah. But you learn as you go. And that's, I think, one of the big things that we take away tonight is the idea that your first startup, the first lessons you learn when you try to do something by yourself are maybe the most painful, but also the most interesting. So what my company is now, and I'd say it's my second really high quality startup, is we do smart playgrounds. We identified a pain point that screen time is concerning young parents. We developed an app that every parent can use that helps them get their kids motivated to go back outside and get healthy play. So pretty simple concept. I think they spoofed it accidentally on Silicon Valley. They kind of made fun of that with one of the companies. But it kind of works. We've got 4,500 locations now worldwide. So mainly North America, mainly the United States, mainly the southern United States, where they have kind of a real childhood obesity problem. But our uptake is great, our retention is phenomenal, and it's really kind of making some strides. And again, we're a small Vancouver startup, like most of you folks. But we were named one of the top 100 inventions of 2019 by Time Magazine, which is pretty cool. Thank you. Thank you. And in the same year, we were also named one of the most innovative companies by Fast Company magazine. So again, we're 15 people. We're not a big crew, but we really love our mission. We really love what we're doing. And we've got good investors that are, they're in for the long haul. And happily, we just turned a profit too. So for all the startups out there, that's like the other ones I can live without. My investors, they like the profit thing. And that's kind of elusive. So we're in a good spot. But what I really want to talk to you about was something I call the Kalina principle. This is my friend Kalina, and she is a filmmaker here in the city. She does a lot of science fiction TV shows, stuff that you would see on TV if you weren't so busy with your companies. And I was trying to enlist her in a project about 5 or 6 years ago, trying to convince her to say, hey, come and be part of this. It'll be really interesting and special. And she was kind of going back and forth, and I couldn't really figure out why. And what she said to me was, listen, as a female director, right, as someone who's trying to create my own things, I'm only going to get maybe in my career, because things take time, 8 opportunities. And that's it. Like 8 opportunities before it's all over. So I'd love to do your thing, but I can't afford to give you one of my 8 opportunities. Because time goes by quickly. And as I'm moving into the second half of my career, I can start to appreciate that. So I was kind of ruminating a bit on what I call the Kalina principle, and a couple of things struck me. The first is the average age of a successful high-growth startup founder. What do you guys think it is? 45, right? This is not me saying it. Although self-servingly I would say that's obviously true, but it is 45. There's a Duke study that says 42. There's one from MIT, I think, that says 40, but 45 is the age of a high-growth, successful startup founder. Now, I'm sure most of you in the audience during the meeting, you're probably all saying, okay, bullshit, boomer, what are you talking about? But I'm not saying their first startup, okay? I'm saying their first real quality startup, the one that really they know this one's going to go for distance. They might have had 2 or 3 successes already when they were like 25, 35, but at 45, with what they've learned along the way, that's when they really hit the strike zone. That's when they really feel the speed coming off the ball. So again, in my experience, and you folks might have different experiences, but the average time to know you've got something, 3 to 5 years, 5 on the outside. Like with our current startup, by year 3, we were just kind of getting the feeling that, hey, I think this thing's going to work. Uber started in what, like 2009, Spotify 2006. These companies didn't really start to make big noise for a number of years. So, your first high quality look in your 40s, knowing and validating it, that also takes time. So that means career-wise, how many really high quality looks do you get? Maybe only 5. Like 5 really good ones. Like I'm sure you're working on one now that's fantastic, but think of how much better you'll be in 10 years' time. Think how much higher your ceiling is going to be, how much more you're going to be able to do. But once you hit that peak, you're also looking at, you can sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel. So maybe 5 quality startups in your entire career, the ones that are really going to change the world or change your pocketbook or change something. So to give you an example of how little that is, most Major League Baseball players will get 5 at-bats in a single game. So imagine if they had to take their entire lives, put their families on hold, miss going out with their friends, training, minor leagues, all the bullshit, for only 5 at-bats, just that one game. But that's what we've all collectively taken on. Those are kind of the odds that we've all chosen to face. Like if we wanted to, we could have picked a much easier path, maybe less fulfilling, but much easier. We could have all, taken a gig with a nice, safe company like TELUS, a fine company, and gotten a nice job there and make things work out for us. But we've all chosen something different. And so I look now and I kind of advise young entrepreneurs sometimes. I get brought in, like some of us, to work on like student projects from time to time, or people will seek me out and ask for advice because they think I might know something that can help them. And I'm happy to do that for anybody in this room as far as that goes. But when I think about it, like that's the one thing I would probably tell all of you, is to think about just how fleeting your career could be. And just think about how important it is to really be deliberate about the choices you make. So I come back to my friend Kalina. And she's actually sent me that photo because I figured it kind of matches her personality. She was like one of these child TV stars that came up really tough through Hollywood, and now she's like a producer and major league ball buster, and captures her perfectly. Here are the things that I would say as a lesson for all you folks here tonight, and it really is, I think, the right audience. Don't waste time with your careers, especially when you're working yourself into that form to really hit that stride with your big idea and your big team. So don't waste time, giving talks at industry events. I'm kidding. Do the talks, they're worthwhile. But, avoid the side projects, avoid the distractions, Don't get drawn into things that seem like what a CEO should do. Focus. Focus on your company and the team that you're building and the change you're trying to make, because it really goes by quickly. Experiment, fail, but learn from it. I think there's a reluctance maybe in Canada to fail sometimes, or to think, oh my God, I'm going to fail. But I've worked in the States, I've worked in Silicon Valley, I've worked in New York, and down there, until you failed a couple times, it's almost like you haven't broken in yet. You almost need a few things to learn from before people really think you've arrived. So don't be afraid of that. We're dealing with problems that no one in the history of humanity has ever had to consider before, with technologies that frankly don't work. We're going to fail. Embrace it. Learn from it. And learn early. Learn in the minor leagues. So when you get to the major leagues, you know what to do. You've got mitigation strategies. Pursue your passions. Don't waste time on a project if it doesn't really consume you, or a problem that you really are just fascinated by, that you think about when you shouldn't even be thinking about it. Like those are the things that carry you through the stretches. I mean, we're all seeing kind of that hype curve for startups, the excitement, then the valley of death, and maybe make your way out of it. Like if it's a passion project, if they all kind of interconnect, they'll take you to a good place. And then finally, pick your partners wisely, right? Pick your teammates wisely. Pick people that have complementary skills. Pick people that have a complementary psychology to yours. Don't create an echo chamber in your office, right? Find disagreeable people that are passionate, and the sparks you create will bump off each other. Be careful with your corporate partners. Like you might get drawn into this idea, we have this channel partner now, it's this big US company, and they're going to carry us to the promised land. But all they're going to do is probably burn all your capital while their boardroom decides whether or not to say yes. So pick those people, move quickly, stay true to yourself. And that's about it. If you can do these things, you're going to have a really great career. But remember, you only get 5. So use them wisely, and you really will change the world. And that's all I've got. Thanks. Oh, questions. Okay, I can't actually see anybody. These lights are so bright. It's completely washed. I have no idea who's out there. So if there's questions, I think you're going to have to tell me there, William. Like, where would the questions be coming from? You'll ask the first question.
I won't, because there's
Okay, so I will say, if you're going to give a talk, make sure
beat me to it.
Make sure it's Tech Vancouver. This is the only talk you should ever do as a CEO.
Thank you. So you just mentioned that you should learn from your mistakes, right?
Yes.
So, for example, for you personally, how long would it take you, for example, to learn from those mistakes, the first mistake you have made when you had your first startup failing?
Okay. Well, my first startup, it's a great question. The question was, what were my first mistakes? My first startup was a disability-focused company. Basically what we now would call a social network, back in the dot-com days. And what I learned there was underestimating greed. There were lots of dollar signs being thrown around. We raised like $25 million in 6 months to drive the company on basically a napkin. Like, it really was those kind of days. And raising that much money that quickly, it changed our culture internally. Like, the whole band of merry brothers kind of thing started to go away. And then everything got kind of drifty. We lost our purpose and stuff. We didn't need that much money, frankly. But we just got kind of caught up in the dollar signs and saying, hey, look how much he raised. Look how much she raised. We should raise more. It was kind of a mistake. So I learned not to go faster than you should go. Sometimes going a bit slower, we might have made it through. But we became our own worst enemies. Cool. Other questions?
I saw a couple hands here. Gonna get my workout in tonight.
Those are steep stairs, man.
Question about, do you work on your weaknesses or do you polish your strengths as a founder?
I hire against my weaknesses. See, I haven't got time to learn all the things I haven't figured out already. Like, I've worked on knowing my weaknesses, and I know them. It's a long list. You can talk to my wife. Long list. But in a place like Vancouver, thank God, there's people like you. And if I know I've got a weakness, like, I'm not the best sales guy. I over-intellectualize things, it doesn't connect. Like, I know that's a hole that has to be filled. I've got to find that person, right? So I hire for my weaknesses. But, I try to work on my strengths because, again, short runways, right? There's things I'm really good at doing, but I haven't got time to learn the other stuff. Maybe between this startup and the next one, maybe I'll sit down and learn something new, like add to my repertoire. But when you're in the saddle and you're going, better to build the team, I think. Good question, though.
I think I saw one more here. Great.
Hey, Matt.
Hey.
Well, we met Senator Digital Media a long time ago, but
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
bring that up. Business models then versus business models now. Can you contrast some of the things you think are significant changes that we haven't been able to we had thought about in the past, and now we have to really think about them now?
Oh, huge question.
Bad, eh?
Yeah, no, I love it, though. I mean, it's a great question because what I've learned is there's almost been like this focusing over the past 20 years where people now, what we care about, the KPIs we look at almost to a fault, we can really analyze and understand and share what success should look like in an objective sense. Like, we should know, like, what retention rates mean. It's given us kind of a language between different skill sets and different companies and different investors that gives us real currency and chance to communicate. We didn't always have that focus. And I think there used to be different kinds of CEOs that were doing it for different reasons. Like, well, they wanted to get on the cover of a magazine, or they wanted to do this or that, or it was an ego play or something. I think we see less of that nowadays. I think we see people that are really sharp compared to 20 years ago, like really committed, laser-focused types, which I think bears out like the industry is heading in the right direction. Because even back then, we knew this party can't last forever, right? And today, I see the next generation coming up, and man, they're better than we were, no question. Hope that answers your question. I think there's another.
Great, yeah, this will be the last one.
So I got a question about time allocation. You say you only get 5 chances, and it's very easy to just work. You know, you can have your weekends, your evenings tied up. And I had a shift in the last few years where I was at a startup and it's work, and my friends and family were like, we need to see you. So with all you know now, I'm sure you've been in that same mindset. Would you choose to allocate your time differently earlier on and spend more time with friends and family and take those weekends? Or do you think working those hard times actually pays off?
Yeah, these are all really good questions. You know, it's funny. I think what I enjoyed the most about kind of, you know, the journey to get here was finding the right people to make it with. Because then, you know, I'd explain to like, you know, my partners, my friends that weren't involved that my career and my hobby are sort of the same things. So I get back out of it the sorts of things other people might get out of by playing Ultimate Frisbee or something. Now, one thing that has changed is having a son. Like just a few years ago, I had my first son, 3 years old. And that obviously changes everything. But, you know, in a perverse way, it helped me with this startup because I do playgrounds, right? And if a middle-aged white guy hangs around a playground saying, no, I'm just taking pictures of your kids and trying to figure out what they do, it doesn't go so well. And now I got cover, so I think it's worked out okay. That's my last question. I think I'm cut off. Thanks so much, guys. And if you want to come talk to me after, come grab me.
What's up, Matt? Oh, great.